Welcome to a brand new episode of the Marketing Business Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Witnish, and today we go into a live recording of a training that I did on Zoom for a group of business owners last week, specifically on the area of content marketing strategy for 2023. I'm about to jump on a plane and head up to the Gold Coast in Australia for a few days. So I thought I'd leave you with this powerful recording that was really well received. This session is really designed to unpack some ways that you can capitalize on content marketing in 2023 and get an edge on the other people playing the game in your niche and industry. So the goal is to go through a few challenges and issues that business owners typically face when it comes to creating content in the current landscape, the way the digital world looks, providing solutions and pivot opportunities for each of those problems. And then we will go through the content plan that you can formulate so you're all ready to deep dive in 2023. This is the agenda. As mentioned, we'll kick off with some problems that we see most business owners that we have conversations with face, and many of the clients that we do work with, and one of the reasons why they come to us, and the solutions that we recommend to pivot and overcome each of those challenges. We're going to go through the mindset, which I think is really important because content isn't dissimilar to investing. It takes time. It needs to compound, and it's not an instant gratification in a lot of cases. So we have to look to the horizon with content and build an asset for our company. Then we'll round it out with your plan, so you're all set for 2023. And as mentioned, if you've joined since the little prelude, we will be doing a Q&A at the end. And because I'm in presentation mode, I can't see the chat. So we'll dive into all those questions towards the back end of the session. I just wanted to start by putting the concept of vision for your brand and your business on the radar. Every industry has a series of brands or products or solutions that are renowned, and they can be renowned in the terms of value. So at the lower end of the market, they can also be renowned at the higher end of the market. You can see a few different examples of brands: Rolls-Royce, the Centurion, Cardin, the Black Amex, Penfolds, Grange. And what's interesting about brands like that is they provide a certain level of status. And you have people that aspire their entire lives to get access to these very expensive products. And that's interesting that people would aspire to transact and spend a large sum of money with your business. So there's many different roads that you can go down as a brand. And to me, that's the ultimate, getting into a position where the marketplace is aspiring to transact with your business when they reach that buying point in the cycle. So we're going to dive into how to make that a possibility today. And like I said, it's also applicable that if you're at the value end of the scale and you want to be positioned as the value product or solution in your niche. So we'll talk to that as well. So as I said, we're going to kick off with the 7 problems. And I did my best to curate the challenges that we stumble across with most business owners when we have the content conversation. The first one is future buyers. And you've built your business to a point at this stage through, I'm sure, a series of strategies. And no doubt if you do great work and have amazing solutions, there's a lot of word of mouth and referral growth. But if we look to the trend and the future generations of buyers coming through, like my son Bailey, who's only 5 and already knows how to use a smart device, when people are in buy mode, they like to do their research and they like to have a look. So what you've currently got set up online in terms of content and your brand is going to have a massive influence moving forward on whether or not people buy or transact with your company. Now, the funny thing about this process is we don't necessarily know, or we can't see the impact that it's currently having because we don't always know who's looking and how that's influencing their decision-making process. So what we need to do is understand our vision for the brand, start lining that with what people see online. So when people do find your company, whether that's their website, the social medias, it actually increases their desire to want to transact, buy, or move forward with your solutions. The opposite can happen, where if you lose that trust because there isn't much of a presence or it doesn't look great or other solutions in the marketplace look better, it can actually decrease people's desire. So we need to understand that content is a massive selling tool and it heavily influences sales conversion in a very passive sense. And we often don't see the impact that it has when someone's checking out our brand or doing their research. So the solution is very simple. You want to have foundational digital assets in place. So when the future generations of buyers do go and do their search online and they're checking you out, they find these assets and it does increase their desire to want to learn more or want to transact or engage your company's services. It doesn't send them away or send them in another direction. So the first asset is the brand guidelines. And this is essentially a document that forms the foundation for every bit of content, every bit of web design, everything that you do moving forward to keep it on brand and streamlined. And I will duck out and show you an example of this so you can understand what a brand guidelines document is. Now, the great thing about a brand guidelines document is it also systemizes content. So if you have someone in your team that is responsible for producing content right now, whether that's you or it's someone on the team that's in-house or it's even a third-party service provider, it removes key person dependence because whoever steps in and takes over that role moving forward or whoever's responsible can just grab this guidelines document and they can just follow the instructions. So you've got your logos, your color, your typography, your imagery to keep producing on-brand content into the future that aligns with that vision that I was talking about earlier, the way you want to position yourself in the marketplace. So if I quickly scroll through, you can see our one for content only. You see the variations of the logo. You can see all the brand colors that we use moving forward. You can see the typography, so the fonts that we're using in our content. As we get further down, you see the type of mood and the branding and the imagery that we want to utilize when we're putting visuals into posts. And then you also have some concepts for social media. So this document really is as I said, the foundation for everything that you do moving forward. And whoever's responsible for content creation and design utilizes this to systemize everything moving forward. I'll show you the other asset, which is website. And what's really important about website is if you start getting consistent and producing more and more content and have a strategy in place, more and more people are actually going to go to your website. So you're going to get more traffic as a byproduct because they're going to want to learn more. They're going to get curious. Now, most websites, in my experience, usually talk about how the company's been in business for 20 years and it talks about their capabilities and their solutions. If you're going to have people going to your site, you want to start appealing to some of the problems that they're looking to solve and speaking to the outcomes and desires that they want. So if there were 3 tweaks that you want to make to your website in 2023 to assist with your content plan and creating more client opportunities, I would suggest having a headline that has some sort of test drive offer or experience that solves a problem risk-free for your target client. So as soon as they land on the site, the first thing they see is a headline, they see a button, and they can test drive whatever process, whatever solution that you provide in your niche or industry. So headline and button to claim whatever that offer is. And then you'll see a live chat feature here on my screen. If you have live chat on your site, which is easy, there's a lot of free plugins. It's easy to add it to your site. Doesn't matter where anyone is when they're browsing, they have the ability to ask a question. And what's powerful about that is sometimes people need 1 or 2 answers to move further along the buying timeline. And if there's no obvious place to do that and ask those questions, they usually go away and they don't necessarily come back. So by having live chat on your site, you can engage and provide a platform for people to ask questions, get more information, and it will increase the speed at which people are willing to transact with your business. So that's the website asset. And I highly recommend everyone has a very, at the least, a very basic website set up that's smart device responsive and has those basic elements that I just spoke to. Now I'll go back into presentation mode. The third one is socials. And this is where we start getting into the conversation of which socials do you need in 2023. And we'll deep dive into that in this session. But you really want to have the socials that your dream and target clients are on. You don't need to be on all of them. It's reverse engineering. Okay, if I look at my best clients, who spend the most money, they stay the longest, they refer the most, which platform am I most likely to get their attention and also retain their attention? And that's the platform that you want to focus on with socials in the beginning. The final asset is media, and it's actually one of the areas that we find business owners really struggle with, and that's producing original imagery, or in the case of video, it could be video for your business. So a lot of times people do not have those images, those media items, and they can't do original content periodically throughout the year. And there's a lot of repurposing and regenerating, so there's not always a fresh look. So if you can get your brand guidelines to form the foundation, get your website set up so people can go to that site and get some value, and then you get your primary social platform set up and get some fresh media for your business, you're going to have all the foundations you need for a successful content marketing strategy in 2023. The second problem is content ideas. And if you're committed to content marketing, you've probably had the experience where you're not sure what to write or what to post. And I completely understand that. Managing many businesses' content, we are the ones that are responsible for coming up with the content ideas day in and out. So we're no strangers to what this experience can be like. So how do you come up with relevant, fresh, original content ideas that are catered to your target clients on a weekly basis? It's a very brain-frying experience for most business owners and even content creators, in my experience. So what I'm going to say is that Google is the shortcut. Google searches actually provide an endless supply of relevant content ideas that your target clients are actively searching for. So we don't even need to use our brains in this case. And I'm going to give you an example. We can just pop over to Google. And in the case of creating video content, we do this on YouTube. It'll give us content suggestions. So we can have fresh, relevant ideas at the stroke of a keyboard, rather than having to rack our brain for inspiration. So if I jump over to Google, and let's say the marketplace or the solutions that you offer in the area of weight loss. So we type in weight loss, we get a series of suggestions from Google. So let's say we add to that and put weight loss tips in. What you can see is Google's going to suggest what people are searching for on Google. So we know that these are targeted content ideas: weight loss tips for women, weight loss tips at home for men, and so on. So instantly you get this list of content ideas. So you can start capturing them and know that, hey, this is what people are looking for online. You could change this and put in weight loss exercises. And again, you get another 10 or so content ideas that people are searching for online. So if you're ever not sure of what to create for your niche or your industry or your target clients, head over to Google and just run this process, and you'll get several ideas in a few moments that people are actively searching for online. So that's a little shortcut to coming up with fresh, relevant content ideas in a very short span of time. The next challenge is the strategy, and this is ever evolving, as I mentioned at the start of the session, and knowing what to post in what format, with all the different ways that you can produce content right now is confusing. When do you post it? Where? Which platforms do you post it for your target clients? And then how often? So the strategic side in itself can send you in a loop. And no wonder people get overwhelmed and basically give up on their content marketing plans. So to make this simple, you want to reverse engineer why and who you're creating content for in the first place. And you always want to go back to that dream client, because you can go broad and appeal to the masses. But the challenge with that is you're going to attract a lot of prospects that are not a fit for the services and solutions that you offer, unless you are a very broad solution in that low end value sort of space in the market. So if you reverse engineer and go, okay, who's my dream client? What are their qualities? What are their traits? And then go, where is the place that they're most likely to be spending their time online? Which platforms, or is it in search platforms? How will they be consuming content? Will it be through reading? Will it be through watching? Will it be through listening? And you want to unpack this so you can get in the shoes of your dream client. Then you want to go, okay, when are they active on these platforms? Are they going to be doing it on their commute? Are they going to be doing it in the evening? Will they be doing it during business hours? And this is how you actually formulate the strategy. And you really want to concentrate on that platform and that place in that format that is going to have the most appeal for your target client. So if you've got a very visually aesthetic brand, that it's really important to have that visual appeal. A platform like Instagram might be what you're looking at. Us as a marketing agency, a lot of where we want to add value is to business owners and decision makers. So LinkedIn is a place where we concentrate a lot of our content efforts, and we reverse engineer a lot of our planning around that platform. If you've got a highly educational brand that needs to educate the marketplace to build trust and desire, you might be looking at long form content in the search engines like Google and YouTube style videos. So it's about understanding where are your dream clients putting their attention and then catering your content strategy to that. Now, I understand that people watching this, that we've got a broad spread of industries and solutions. So I just wanted to give you that framework so you can unpack that for yourself and really understand who your best clients are, where they're spending their time, what format they're consuming in, and when they're likely to be on these platforms. And that's how you derive and reverse engineer your content strategy. I wouldn't be listening to too many influencers that are telling you their format, because the strategy for someone that's an influencer or someone that's building a personal brand is going to be a very different approach to a business or someone that's building a luxury brand or someone that's building a high touch educational brand. So it's all about understanding who are your best clients and how to best cater to them. The fourth problem, and arguably the biggest problem, is time. If you're a business owner, if you're in a managerial role, you have so many other high priority things that keep falling onto your plate: taking care of clients, managing your team, spot fires, fulfillment. Content might be on the to-do list, but I'm sure it gets pushed down to the lower end of the priorities because you've got so many other things that are more pressing on your table and plate each day. So by the time you get around to content, it might be rushed, it might be on the fly, and it might not be done very well. So how do we deal with this time constraint if we understand the value and importance of having a powerful brand and a content strategy in a very much a digital and online world? So I want to share with you Bedo. So this is a creation format depending on what stage you are at in business. And B stands for batch. So if you are responsible for the content or anyone is responsible, I recommend blocking it into a single window in your calendar every single month. This way it becomes a set and forget process. So this is how we do pretty much all our content creation, is we block it out. We have our ideas, we do our research like you saw with Google or through other research mechanisms. All the content gets produced, it goes through the optimization process, and then it gets scheduled to go out in advance. And we'll share some tools to do all this later. By batching it, doing that set and forget process and having it fixed in the calendar, you maintain that consistency month in, month out. Whereas if you're trying to create it on the fly and doing it spontaneously, you probably won't follow through, or you certainly won't have continuity and consistency with it. It'll be very sporadic. The second one is delegate. So if it's not the best use of your time as the business owner or as the manager, you can take it in-house, find someone in your team and make them responsible for the role of content creation. And you would, again, probably set them up to batch the content. So they're putting all their effort in. You might have a little look at it to approve it. And that team member is responsible because they have that capability or skill set for your content creation. So you're utilizing the resources you have in your team to make sure this content is getting done consistently. The third option is outsourcing. So this is where you engage a third party external from your own business to run the content strategy for you. So it might be an agency as an example. So they're the three ways. If you can play to either one of those strategies that are going to ensure that you have a rhythm and you're consistent and you show up in the cadence that you want to show up with content in 2023, and we'll help formulate what that cadence might look like towards the end of the session. Problem number 5 is competition. So not only do we have all those other challenges that we're speaking to, your competitors are competing for the exact same people's attention with their content that's going out. So if they're competing and they're looking to establish their brand as the destination brand or the first choice, or to be front of mind when it comes time to make a buying decision, how do we get an edge? How do we stand out with the content that we create over the competition? So I think it was around 2017, I went through and analyzed our content that was performing particularly well that we were putting out online. And this was actually through another business. And this is how I came up with the REVS formula. And REVS stands for, the R stands for relevant. So we've already dived into how you can look at relevant content ideas using the Google search bar to see what people are searching for. There's also Google Trends, another tool where you can type in a keyword for your niche and it'll show you the topics that are actually trending and people are talking about online. So there's another play. But again, we want to make it relevant to that dream client. If you go for that broad stroke that's going to appeal to the masses, you might have a scenario where you have a lot of unqualified attention, and that can run into challenges when it comes to your sales process, converting opportunities into customers. So we always want to have that relevancy with our dream client in the back of our mind. E is entertaining. So if you've been on socials lately, you'll see the content formats that are getting a lot of hang time in the newsfeed and are popular in the algorithms. Short, sharp content with things flashing up on the screen, moving very quickly and often under 60 seconds in the video format. In the short form written content, again, very short, sharp, to the point and highly engaging. So if you can have an entertaining voice in the way that you write, or if you are doing audio or video as a content format, keeping that short, sharp, and engaging and entertaining, you'll actually retain people's attention and get them to consume the content, which is a very important step in the process, which leads into number 3, which is valuable. And this is always the primary goal that's in the back of my mind when content is being created. How can we add the most value in our niche? When people stumble across our brand or they deliberately find it online, how can we ensure that everything they see adds value and it makes their life better? It gives them a breakthrough, or they learn something that they didn't know. It provides a solution. It addresses a problem. It shows them how to get an outcome that they were looking to achieve. If you play the long game and you add more value than your number one competitor in the marketplace right now, over time, you will take that throne and own the mantle. It's not about quantity. If you can stick to the quality format and make sure you're adding the most value and you're doing quality content more than your competitors, that's how you're going to win the long game. So always have value in the back of your mind. How is this going to enhance my audience's life and make it better? And the S is for social proof. So this is really displaying your capabilities. So it could be showing projects that you've done, client testimonials, case studies. It could be demonstrating your solutions in action, taking people behind the scenes. The more of that you can do, it builds up the more trust transference in what people believe that your solutions will work for them. So we call this pre-selection, where they can determine from the social proof that what you provide in terms of a solution is actually going to work for them. So you don't need to use all the REVS ingredients in every single post. You can get by with just using one, but have it in the back of your mind so your content has attributes that's going to give it an advantage over competitors that aren't taking these variables into account. If you just wing it and do it on the fly without considering these factors, you're probably not going to get as an effective result with your content as if you're putting these ingredients into the post, the visual, the video, when you're creating it. So REVS is a very important formula to have in the back of your mind when you're creating content. Number 6 is media. And this is an area, as I alluded to earlier, where we find a lot of businesses have the biggest challenges, and that's getting fresh media for their business. And not every business requires their own original media. It just depends on what industry and what game you're playing. But if you need to display results, capabilities, and you want to bring personality and people into your content and online brand, it's really important that you have recurring, fresh, up-to-date media going out that other people can't replicate because it's created in-house. So just like we batch the content that we create each month, what I highly recommend, and this is something that we had to add in to our service solution for our clients, was getting a photographer and sending them out to capture all the photos for our clients, because if we didn't do that, a lot of business owners were getting too stretched and weren't able to get it over with the continuity that they needed. I'd recommend getting someone out to capture that media. It could be every 6 to 12 months, and they might get 20, 50, 100 photos, whatever is required, that are fresh, original, up to date too, because your business and brand will evolve and progress. And as the team changes, as the solutions get more premium and enhanced, it's good to have up-to-date media that reflects that. So you want to refresh this as often as you need to, so you've always got original content going out that people can't duplicate. So block that in, and it'd be great for you to refresh and get some new visuals if you need them heading into a new year. Number 7 is traction. And you'll see there's different results that you get with different forms of content. And right now, a lot of short form content is increasingly unpopular because it's fast, instant gratification. It gets attention and people can move on with the short attention spans. The challenge with short form content is it has a very short span in the newsfeed. Usually after 24, 48 hours, all the traction's done. And then you have to come up with new content to be front of mind and create brand awareness with your audience. So they're creating a scenario where they need people to be creators, keep showing up with this short form content. Now, the value that does have is it does put you front of mind. If you keep showing up with short form content, it's those touch point, it increases the frequency and makes sure that if people are in buy mode, that you're constantly in their news feed and they're not forgetting about you. But if you want to have a long-term asset, what we recommend as a solution is a hybrid strategy. So you're combining short-form content with long-form content. Now, long-form content are things like blog posts that go onto your website that are catered to search engines. They could be articles, they could be long-form YouTube videos, and these are designed to have an organic search result. So you create this awesome, valuable content one time, you optimize it for what people are searching for online, and it creates organic traffic. So 5 years into the future, that same piece of content is still getting traction, it's still getting traffic, it's still getting engagement, it's still getting views. And if you can have that compounding long form content with the fast paced short form content that keeps getting people's attention, that's the perfect mix to ensure that you're getting the best of both worlds with your content strategy. Now, here's a pro tip, because this is really important, because we go into all this effort to create content. What actually has the biggest impact when we put a piece of content together? So it's actually the headline and the visual that you use. So if you think about when you're scrolling down the news feed, what is it that's actually catching your attention? And these are the things that you want to focus on most. So it's those first lines of text that you read, and that visual or the media item or the thumbnail, if you're doing a video, that's right in front of someone's face. So we want to put the most emphasis on these two areas when we're creating content, because that's going to determine whether we stop someone in their newsfeed, get their attention, and they actually want to consume that piece of content. So if there's anything to work on, it's headlines and visuals, because they're going to have the biggest impact on whether people consume your content moving forward. So always have that in the back of your mind. And of course, we've gone through some of the ideas to make sure that you are coming up with relevant searches that people are looking for that should get their attention. The mindset. So content, as I mentioned when we started the session, is very much a long-term play. And those of you that have been producing content already will probably understand that. And as we know, there are ways to get some quick wins. Short form content does have the ability to get fast traction, to get some engagement, to have an impact, even if you don't have a following, if you don't have much of an audience yet. So there are opportunities there. But if you want to take over and dominate and be that destination brand in your marketplace, it really is a marathon mentality. It's taking it one post, 1 week at a time, and understanding that what you do is going to compound into long-term success. And if you have an instant gratification mindset, or you're looking at the results of the last few posts, you're probably going to quit, because it can be pretty heartbreaking in the beginning. You put all that effort, energy into creating content, you put it out, and very few people see it. But what I want to do is reassure you that even if you don't have a lot of reach, even if you don't have a lot of followers, remember, if people are checking you out online, if you've got that thread, it's still having an influence on their buying decision-making process. If they go to your account and they can see all this value, even if there's not a lot of followers and it's not reaching anyone, when they're in that research mode, it's going to have a drastic impact on where they are in terms of their desire to buy. So don't think it's not having an impact, because it is influencing sales conversion right from the outset. But in terms of winning and owning a niche and dominating a space, you have to have that marathon mentality and understand that everything that you do is going to compound into future success. And we'll talk about in the plan, how do you come up with a strategy to become that number one in your space? What's the process for that? Number 2 is attract and repel. And one of the biggest challenges, and we've seen this with companies we've worked with before, is that they attract a lot of unqualified traffic, a lot of unqualified prospects, and it's very draining on their sales process and actually takes up a lot of time. And a part of that is because they're not making it clear who their clients are and who their clients are not. And if you're a premium brand and you're not positioning yourself that way, and someone is interested and they're looking for a budget solution, it's going to be a very time-consuming exercise for the two of you when you jump into the sales process, because they're not looking for that premium result. They're looking for a cheap option, and they didn't get that inference from looking at your brand online. So it's important to, again, really frame content and everything that you're putting out with that dream or target client in the back of your mind. There's nothing wrong with going for high quality, laser focused content and getting that really high conversion and high ROI on a much smaller audience than going broad and looking at all those vanity metrics that you can achieve, like reach, likes, engagement, because if they're not translating into the clients that you want, again, it's a very time consuming, costly, and expensive exercise as a business owner. So be very clear on who that dream client is when you're positioning your brand in the marketplace. So it saves a lot of time for your sales team, and it attracts the people that are ready to transact and they're not at that price point sensitivity because it's been built up through what they've been consuming online. Number 3 is inbound. And this is a stage that you get to when you're consistent with content, where people actively reach out to you when they're at buy mode in their process. And what's happened is they've followed you for a period of time. They've got that value from that high quality content, that consistent attention, that they've seen you in the news feed, they've interacted and engaged with your brand and the post going out, and now they're ready for the solution. And they've got so much trust and confidence in what your brand can do through consuming the content and everything that they've seen, that there's no other provider in the marketplace that they'd rather transact with. So again, if we think about those Rolls-Royce scenario, when we put the vision up at the start of the session, and when you get to the point where you're getting an influx every single month of inbound inquiries in your message inbox, in your comments, of people that are asking buying questions and they're moving through the buying process, that's when you know you've created a destination brand that people are paying attention to in the marketplace. So that's ultimately when you know you're having a really heavy impact with your content and the brand that you've built online. And it's really what you should be aspiring for. People directly reaching out to you, coming to you saying, hey, how can you help us? We're interested in your solutions. And I will say that clients that we've worked with at our other agency, because Content Only is only 4 or 5 months old, that we were doing content for as a part of our service with our other agency that still runs. The ones that we've done content for over a 12, 24-month period, most of them have got to the point now where they will have consistent inbound opportunities come to them every single month because they've been consistent showing up and built that positioning and that frame and expertise in their niche. And it completely changes their margins on their business, because they're not having to budget down to meet people's expectations. People are willing to pay the price that they ask because they've created that positioning in the marketplace. So this is the 2023 plan part of the session, and we're going to go through bringing it all together. So how can we create a plan that's going to make you that destination brand, or whatever vision you have for your brand in 2023? How do we lay the foundations? So as mentioned at the start, we need the foundations in place in order for you to move forward successfully and create content on brand. So what I recommend, if you haven't done this already, you want to refresh and get your digital assets up to speed, so everything that you do moving forward aligns with the vision that you have with your brand and your dream clients. So as mentioned at the start, you got your brand guidelines document. And those of you that might have joined the session late, I'll quickly go back to this. So this is the system that you use to create all your content moving forward. Whoever's responsible, if someone else comes in and assumes the role because a key person in your team has left, you've got the logos, you've got the typography, the fonts, the colors, everything's there. So if someone has to step into the role, they can just pick it up and start producing on-brand content from the outset. So it systemized the process so you can always have consistent branding and messaging and content going out through your social media, through your search engines, and through your website. So getting that is the first piece before you create all the other digital assets. Then I quickly mentioned the website as well, just a couple of tweaks to make sure that if you're doing a content plan and you've got traffic coming back to your site because they're checking you out, that you start to tailor it to problems that they want to solve. So as soon as they land on your website, there's a headline that offers to solve a problem risk-free for them so they can test drive and sample what your company can do, and a button where they can click and take up that offer, and also live chat so they can ask questions on your site. Because if you're getting traffic and you're not optimizing for conversion, you're leaving a lot of client opportunities on the table. And of course, we have the socials. So, like I said, it's getting those primary accounts live. So, whichever platform you determine is the fit for your dream clients, that's where you want to get set up first and focus the majority of your content. And then you can branch out afterwards, unless you're already established and you're doing multiple platforms already. And as I said, I really want to emphasize getting fresh media if you can. So, getting fresh visuals, photos, videos if you need them. So, you've got that library that you can use for your content moving forward, and you're not relying on people winging it or coming up with last minute pitches. It's all there and you can get organized well in advance. Here's where we get to the strategic part of your plan, and that's creating your schedule. So how many times a week are you going to post? Which platforms are you going to post at what time? And which hashtags are you going to use if you need to use hashtags in your post? So I'm going to give you two scenarios. Number one is if you haven't been consistent with content or you're just starting out right now. Your goal is just to create a rhythm, and it might be simply posting once a week, every single week in 2023. So you want to set yourself up to build a new habit or a new ritual inside the company that you can expand on later. So don't make it overwhelming and go, we're going to go all in from day one. Create something that you know you can stick to, and there's no excuses for not getting it done. Now, if you want to become a destination brand and you want to be that standout positioned organization in your marketplace that everyone's aspiring to transact with, what you need to do to understand what that schedule looks like is go and find who is the person that is leading in your niche right now. And you want to reverse engineer their entire content strategy. How many times a week are they posting? What type of posts are getting attention? When are they posting? In what format are they posting? And your job is then to go outperform them. So you've got to create better quality content and you've got to outperform their frequency. So in order to get to that number one position, it's simply doing your research and analysis on competitors and then go, okay, if we were to beat them and outperform them, what do we need to do? So it's a bit of a homework process, but you can unpack what your number one competitor or the number one brand in the space is doing right now to understand what's required to outperform them. So there's two different scenarios you got there. One for just getting in the game of content, two for totally dominating your space and taking over with time, I might add, because they've done a lot of work over a period of several years. You're going to have to outperform them for an extended period of time to take over and become the front of mind destination brand in your niche. Now, we're going to share some tools in a minute to assist with this process. But again, pick your primary platform is step one, which is the place that your dream clients are consuming content. What format are they consuming in? Number two is research. Jump on Google, jump on YouTube, go through the process that we shared to find relevant content ideas that people are searching for. Number three is batch. So you're guaranteed that you're getting it done in advance, and then schedule it for the month moving forward. And then optimizing, making sure that we're giving our content every chance at performing well by scheduling it at active times and using hashtags if it's applicable in order to optimize for what people are searching for on the social platforms. So I'm going to share with you 5 tools now that you can use to optimize your content in 2023. I'll quickly run through them. So we've got Grammarly, and I'll go show you each tool. We've got Canva, which is for you. So Grammarly is for proofreading and checking that your copy doesn't have any typos. Canva's for your design and templated visuals, so you can create on-brand media for those posts that capture people's attention. Bash Hashtags is a tool that you can get hashtags for your niche that are going to optimize the content for searches on various platforms. Hero Post is a scheduling tool that we use to schedule content to go out in advance across various platforms. And Meta Planner is Instagram/Facebook's in-house tool that you can use to schedule content on their platform. So just quickly, if we go to Grammarly, so as you can see, I'll put a post in here as an example. And if there's a suggestion to improve grammar, it'll come up and you get a score over here on the right. So if there's any typos that you need to correct, it'll come up over here and tell you what you need to fix. So it proofreads your content using AI and just ensures that you haven't missed anything. Canva is where you can create on-brand visuals. So once you know your font, your colors, and your imagery, you can plug and play that in to create social media posts that actually fit the dimensions of the platforms that you're on. So this is an example for Instagram, but Canva will give you templates for Facebook, thumbnails for YouTube, whichever platforms that you're focusing on. And you can just make sure that it's always on brand with the colors, the font, and the visuals. Here's best hashtags. So this is where you can take a hashtag that you're using in your niche. So let's say I take personal brand as an example, and I hit the search button. It's going to come up with relevant hashtags that I can utilize to optimize my content, as you can see here, on social media platforms. So you don't need to get overly creative. This will provide all the research for you, and you can simply copy them, and it'll show you the top 10 hashtags right here. Hero Post is the scheduling tool that I mentioned. So we use this because naturally we're managing many businesses and posting across several platforms at once across several industries. So there's lots out there. You don't have to use this one. There's tons. A lot of them are really good. So you can just search and find one that's the best fit for you. So Hero Post is the one that we use. And of course, there's Meta Planner. And what's really cool about Meta Planner, so this is Facebook's tool for Instagram and Facebook, and I'll do an example, is it actually gives you the active times that your content can go out to your audience. So you actually don't need to overly think about when you can optimize your post. So if I come in here and I paste in my copy with my hashtags, I'll go get a visual to add in. I'll grab this visual and I'll upload it. See, it's ready to go. Now I can go over here. Hopefully you can see that. You can go schedule post and you'll see active times come up. So I can choose an active time of 7 p.m. tonight. There aren't any active time suggestions right now for Instagram, but I would just mirror that and do the 7 o'clock post on Instagram. So a lot of the tools out there are very intuitive, and they'll actually tell you when to do things to optimize your content. So you can just borrow all the intuition that they've built into these programs and utilize it for your content optimization. So there's a few different tools to contribute to your optimization component of scheduling your content. The final part to the content plan is the monetization. So we're putting all these resources, all this time, energy, and effort into curating our content. How can we maximize potential ROI that we're generating and look for ways to create new business and client opportunities from this process? So I'm going to give you 5 different things to consider. The first is called the X to 1 strategy. And it's a formation of Gary Vaynerchuk's jab, jab, jab hook. And what it basically means is for every X number of value-adding posts where you might be using the REVS formula, you'll post an offer to see if you can get hands up from your audience. So let's use a hypothetical example. Let's say in content only, we might do 10 posts that add incredible value around content strategy and content creation for our audience. Then the 11th post might say, does anyone want all their content done for them in 2023, as an example? And that would be the offer. And as our audience growing, as our reach is going, and people are moving along the buying timeline or their desire timeline, we can extract hands up at that interval. So you set your own rhythm for that, because you obviously don't want to be too aggressive with offers. You want to make sure the value is there, because we know how that is important that is for becoming a destination brand. But if you're doing this with a rhythm, every now and again, you can actually get hands up to see who's ready or who might be interested in the solution. So that's the X to 1 strategy to monetize your audience, throwing in an offer into your content planner every once in a while. The next one is audit. So at the end of every week or start of every week, you want to go through and just check your message inbox. You want to check the comments on all your posts and just see if there are any opportunities that you've missed, because more often than not, there's people that have engaged, who got busy with all the notifications that we receive from social media accounts. They can often get overlooked. So once a week, go back. Is there anyone that you can re-engage or build a next step with? And if you do that process every single week, you're not going to miss any opportunities. And if someone has interacted, is there an opportunity to open up a conversation and re-engage? Because all those touch points are what are required to lead someone to that buying decision. The third is CTAs, which stands for call to action. So in some of your posts, you actually tell the person consuming the content what to do, which could be to comment in the section below, because if they're reading and you don't tell them to comment, they're not necessarily going to think to do it. But if you actively ask for that engagement, that's how you can increase traction. You might ask them to tag someone else who might find that post valuable. So if you add CTAs into some of your content posts, you can increase the traction, the interaction, and engagement that you get. Number 4 is boost. And this is a way that you can put your content on steroids. So if you're creating valuable content and you want to boycott the organic results and fast track the process and get more reach and get more engagement, then you can hit the boost button on just about any social platform that's out there, and you can actually boost it to an audience of your target clients. So you select the interests, the avatar of your dream clients when you're going through that process. You put a little bit of budget behind it and you're getting guaranteed reach to a targeted audience. So if you're starting out and you want to get more traction, that might be a strategy. Or if you've written a really valuable piece of content that you put a lot of time into, that's how you can ensure that a lot of eyeballs get onto that, and it'll increase all those touch points and all the engagement and interaction with it. So that's another thing you can do to monetize content. And the last one is repeat. So if anything works really well with a particular content piece, with boosting a post, with a strategy, just keep repeating it until it stops working. We often try and reinvent the wheel, but if you found a particular theme or topic really lands with your audience, then keep, as I said, utilizing it until the fire burns out, because we don't need to get overly creative. If something's working, double down on it and keep repeating it until it stops working. I think that's very valuable information. So to summarize very quickly, if we're bringing this all together, it's very important to get those foundational assets. So if anyone stumbles across your brand online, all those things are in play to move them closer to a buying decision and increase their desire to transact with your brand if they're qualified and if they're a fit, and it's repelling those that are not. So get them in place so everything's on brand moving forward. Number 2 is schedule. So creating a content that outperforms your number 1 competitor. So if you want to take that number 1 spot in the marketplace, look at what that major player in your local industry is doing right now and go, okay, to outperform them, this is what we need to do. And that can be your content plan for 2023. And then you just need the resources together to execute on that. Then you've got your monetization tips that I gave you. Make sure that you're not overlooking the opportunities to monetize your content in 23. And of course, always have that mindset, look beyond instant gratification or the results of the last few posts, always play the long game. If you got this far, I trust it was a very valuable session for you. If you're not following or subscribed to the show, whatever platform you're listening on, make sure you do that. If you have any questions or want to get in contact, there should be some resources in the show notes to get in touch with me. If you can comment on the platform, by all means do that. I'll endeavor to get back to you, and I'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the Marketing Business Wealth Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.